What's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here, and welcome back to my weekly Q&A session where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. We had a lot of great questions this week, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. For those of you who don't know how to submit questions to the Q&A, it's pretty simple. You can either submit them in the comment section below, you can feel free to hit me up on Twitter, or if you're a patron donor, we have a special Discord just for you. You can ask your questions in there as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Our first question of the week comes from OPPOLOP Memes. Dude, I gotta give you credit for originality. I like that. And his question is, do you think that a Halo game about Sergeant Johnson would work? I mean, like if you could see his point of view from the original trilogy. Love your work. Keep it up. Well, thank you very much, OPPOLOP. Well, the answer is yes and no. So I can easily see a game with Sergeant Johnson working. We've already been able to play him in Firefight in ODST, so you could basically trade out the shield system for stamina system, and that would work just fine. I don't think I would have a game for him, though, set in the original universe. I'd want a new story, or at least one we haven't experienced in game yet, so it could be a prequel to the original trilogy, or something that even happened between 2 and 3. So that's my opinion on it. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what kind of game you would like to see Sergeant Johnson in the future. Our next question comes from EVILGUIDE 172174, and EVILGUIDE asks, Q&A, with the lack of Halo 6 news, I feared this might be another Half-Life 3 situation. If that's the case, how do you feel ending the main Halo story with Halo 5? So I have mixed feelings for this one. On the one hand, I'm afraid that they've gotten themselves into a bit of a rut in terms of the story with Halo 5, being that, now the AI, the legions of AI have now a legion of guardians, and each one is successful at policing a system. They can knock out the power, so I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do for Halo 6 to counter that, at least in a way that makes sense and doesn't feel like space magic, So, in that sense, I wouldn't be completely heartbroken. I know, as weird as that sounds, if it left off like that in Halo 5 was maybe answered somewhere else. But at the same time, because Halo is what it is, yes, I think for the sake of the fans and my own curiosity, to be honest with you, we do need to have a wrap-up that takes place in-game. To be honest with you, there's a lot of things about Halo 5's multiplayer that I like. I like the fact that they keep adding to it, and I'm hoping that they have a similar situation with Halo 6 where they build a strong enough foundation where they can continue adding to it for years to come. But saying that, I also want a nice, satisfying ending to the Reclaimer saga. So you also have to remember, in terms of the way 343 is versus Valve, which is, the Half-Life universe, Valve has other franchises that they can work on. Now, they don't have many, mind you, but they have a lot of multiplayer-only ones as well, so they can continuously update those over time. With 343's case, Halo is all they have, so if they stop doing Halo, then the company might as well dissolve. So I'm pretty confident they're working on the next major Halo title. When we're going to hear about it, I don't know, but I feel like I can safely speak for the rest of the Halo YouTubers out there, where I say I hope it's sooner rather than later. But great question, EVILGUIDE. Thank you. Our next question comes from Chan So, and Chan asks, Q&A Tyrant, do you think there will be any significant impact, or would be any significant impact, if Captain Keyes survived Installation 04? If so, why would he make such a difference? Okay, so to answer your question in the simplest way I can think of is, for the original trilogy, I don't think he would have had much of an impact, simply because the war after Installation 04 was pretty straightforward. Again, I'm just excluding everything outside of the games here, so strictly in terms of what happened in-game. After Installation 04, of course, the Covenant tried to invade Earth, and they side-quested to Installation 05, and then came back to Earth, and then went to the Ark, and that was simply it. Whereas Captain Keyes, he was known as a military genius, but it was mostly in individual space battles and scenarios, whereas I don't think that would have made a huge difference in the original trilogy. Having said that, I think that he could have made a very strong difference in the Reclaimer saga if maybe Captain Keyes had replaced Captain Lasky. It would have been really interesting to see Captain Keyes' take on the Prometheans, and maybe if he would have gone about it differently, maybe against facing the Didact, or what would have happened, or what would his reaction would have been once Cortana started feeling the need to join the Protectors of the Mantle, if that makes sense. So it would have been really cool to see his take on that. His strategy for dealing with it, I think, could have really come in handy for Halo 6, kind of going back to the last question. So, yes, I think he could have made an impact on it based on the strategies we've seen him use in the Fall of Reach. but I don't think it would have made a huge impact in the original trilogy, mostly the Reclaimer saga, which they're probably thinking about him right now. So excellent question, Chan, so always good to see you here. Our next question comes from Claude Assassin. And Claude Assassin asks, should 343 allow us to have the ability to heal unarmored allies and repair vehicles? No, I don't think so. Basically here, when it comes to your unarmored allies, they're meant to sort of be your support. They're meant to be sort of a buffer between you and the enemies. They're not meant to repair. I think that would be a better job for the squad system, sort of like what we have now in Halo 5. I don't think at all that you should be able to heal other units. I think they're there just to make sort of a larger-than-life battle scenario. Now, in terms of vehicles, I still feel the same way. Remember, in Halo Combat Evolved, vehicles were invincible, well, at least for the most part. Now, as they moved on, of course, they made vehicles destructible. I think the whole point in that was to make more balanced multiplayer and to give you a more sense of urgency on the battlefield itself. If you have an invincible vehicle, it's not as tense. So, to me, no, I don't feel like you should be able to repair vehicles or heal unarmored allies. I can see the appeal for it, but I don't think it would. I think it would further pull away from Halo even more than we already have. So I'd say no to that, but it's still an interesting thing to think about, Claude Assassin. Our next question comes from Austin K. And Austin asks, Q&A, how do you think Halo 6 marketing campaign is going to be, and how would you want it to be? Should it take the same approach as Halo 5 and hype it up with a lot of backstory and trailers, or should they just do one trailer and then just set a release date for it? So, do I think they should mirror it like Halo 5? No, absolutely not. That was a big problem for Halo fans everywhere. To be honest with you, if I were to design their marketing campaign, the best Halo campaign I've seen so far in terms of marketing was Halo 3 by a long shot. You had a very impressive intro trailer, the teaser trailer, the first one that you got that showcased the portal to the Ark. I think that was fantastic. After that, they released vidocs, or video documentaries, basically showcasing the progress of the game. And then as time went on, they had the Believe series of trailers, which was amazing, but it didn't feel like it was trying to overhype anything. I loved the Landfall series. That was amazing. It just sort of led up to the events of Halo 3. And finally, you got the E3 2007 gameplay trailer. And the thing of it is, what I loved about Halo 3's marketing campaign is it never seemed to showcase the game in a way that was overhyping it. It didn't showcase the game in a way that would set it up for disappointment. You know, the most unrealistic trailer we had was Starry Night, but they came right out and said to begin with that it was going to be pre-rendered and not to expect that in-game, but it was still impressive to watch it, and it made you just want to play the game even more. Halo 3's marketing campaign was easily the most honest campaign that I've seen for a Halo game to date. And I think if they're going to follow any path at all, that should be the one that they follow. Don't, overhype the game with lore that may not actually make the final cut. Don't show us things that aren't going to be in the final product. Keep it real and keep us interested. That's what I want to see for Halo 6, and I hope they'll consider going that route in the future. So great question, Austin K. Thank you. Our next question comes from Xbox One X. And Xbox asks, Q&A, Tyrant, do you think Halo should be rated M for mature again? I realize Halo isn't an extremely violent series like Doom, but when you slap a T rating on it, it does feel like a kid's game. Well, here's the thing. I'm not really sure why it was rated M to begin with. Halo's never really been a violent game, and I'll say that I can kind of understand it for Halo Combat Evolved, because there was a lot more blood in that game, and once you got to the part where the Flood enter, and they're falling apart and everything, I can sort of see it with that, but even then, I didn't think it was serious enough to warrant an M rating. That said, I can understand the appeal of wanting the M rating to a point. It makes it feel like more of an adult game, even if the game hasn't changed at all. At the same time, I like the fact that younger folks can play it. And I know that not everyone feels that way, especially when you're in multiplayer, but the fact that Halo, I always thought of it as Halo is a series for everyone, and I'd like to see it go on that path. I'm not really sure what the difference would have been if Halo 5 had been rated M for mature as opposed to T for teen. There may have been one, and you know what? I hope you guys can let me know in the comments below what you think how it would have been different if Halo 5 had been rated M for mature instead of T for teen. That said, I'm okay with it being rated T for teen as long as it's a solid game and a solid gameplay. And I hope that answers your question. That was a great one, Xbox One X. Thank you. Our next question comes from Mr. No Life. And Mr. No Life asks, Q&A, Halo is an FPS franchise, but when trying out the RTS genre in Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2, it gained moderate success. What other genres do you think Halo could work in? Well, we've already seen them work in mobile games, and they were, Spartan Assault and Spartan Strike were given mixed reviews, but I personally really enjoyed Spartan Assault. I think it had an intriguing story to it. I loved the soundtrack for it, and the gameplay, especially considering that it was just a mobile game, was pretty solid. That said, when people think about Halo, they think of the FPS games, they think of the AAA titles, and it's really difficult to deviate from that without knowing that you're going to take a hit for it. As good as Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2 were, or are I should say, the sales just didn't reflect that. Now if I had to pick a genre to maybe mirror, that'd be interesting, Halo Kart. I can see Arbiter throwing banana peels at the Master Chief. But an interesting subject that I felt like they were toying with many years ago was the concept of a Halo RPG similar to World of Warcraft or Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. And I think that would be sort of an interesting area to explore. I don't know how they would do it exactly. I don't know how they would define different classes and different abilities with those classes and so forth. But it could be something interesting to explore down the road. Now, thing of it is, I feel like that idea would have been more popular 10 years ago. I don't know how it would be received today, especially how much Halo has changed since then. But if I had to test something, if I had to put a theory out there and just put something in the water to test it out, that would be it in my opinion. But you guys, let me know what kind of genre you could see Halo spinning off to. Our next question comes from Incredible Eddie. And Incredible Eddie asks, how good are Spartan 2s, and are they the best ones? Well, I'm pretty sure that's subject to opinion. I would have to say absolutely Master Chief and company are the best Spartans to ever exist in the Halo universe. And there is some data to actually back this up. There's some exposition in Halo 5, I believe it's the mission evacuation, where they said that Master Chief and Blue Team had more missions completed than any other Spartan team out there. So they've definitely proven themselves. They're definitely the most seasoned warriors on the battlefield, at least in terms of Spartans. And so I'd have to say, yeah, I think that Spartan 2s and Blue Team especially would definitely have to be the best out there. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the Spartans in Halo Wars are also Spartan 2s, and I gotta say, Jerome keeps proving himself over and over again. He is an awesome Spartan, and it would be really cool to see him sort of team up with the Master Chief in Halo 6. So I hope that answers your question, Incredible Eddie, and great one, thank you. Our next question comes from Patrick Thomas, and Patrick asks, Tyrant Q&A, since there is not a lot of Halo stuff going on, I know I've asked this before, but I would love to see you do a Let's Play on the Mass Effect trilogy. 1, 2, and 3, Andromeda is optional. Well, I'm glad it's optional. I'm just messing with you, Patrick. So, he has brought this up before, and I've sort of echoed this on Twitter when I was doing a poll about, between the videos that I was working on, which one to focus on next. And one of those options was to do another full campaign and cutscenes. I didn't say what game, I just said do another full campaign and cutscenes. It could be any game. What I would like to focus on right now in those terms, I've already said that one of the things I want to do this year is focus more on the classic Halo titles, at least until we start getting Halo 6 information. But when I start branching out to other games, I really would like to focus on games that I've already purchased, but I haven't done anything with yet. Believe it or not, I have 2 Call of Duty games that I haven't even really touched, Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. Didn't even bother getting a new one because I hadn't played the last 2 yet. I have Slender the Arrival, which I would love to play. I already did Slender the 8 Pages on this site. It'd be really cool to get into that game. I've got Resident Evil 4 and 5 and 6, and I haven't even touched those yet. There's a lot out there that I already own that I'd like to do. And there's a couple of games this year that I am planning on getting. World of Warcraft is getting a new expansion. I would love to play Alien Isolation. I hear a lot of great things about that. The new Jurassic World Alive game is coming out, and I'll do a video on that this week, but it's basically Pokemon Go with dinosaurs. That's going to be awesome. And Jurassic World Evolution is also coming out over the summer. And it's possible we might get another Halo title this year. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. But If that happens, if we get another Halo title, then I'll pick that up as well. But aside from that, I'm really trying not to buy too many new games because they're expensive, and I don't know how well my community is going to receive them. Looking back now, not a lot of people watched my Doom content. Actually, I take that back. The shorter videos I did, people seem to appreciate, but when it came to like doing a full campaign and cutscene run, surprisingly, Doom 2016 didn't get any real results from that, which I found surprising because I've branched out to other games before and I've had some pretty decent success from it. I did the same with Titanfall 2 and Gears of War 4, and people just, it seems to be a real hit and miss. I did it with a few Resident Evil games as well. And so I don't want to spend 60 bucks, or I don't know how much the Mass Effect trilogy is now. I'm sure it's heavily discounted, but I don't want to spend a lot of money on games that people aren't going to appreciate. That said, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying not right now. In terms of the Mass Effect trilogy itself, I've only played the first one and I wasn't very impressed by it. It bored me a lot. I hear that 2 and 3 are a vast improvement, even though 3's ending apparently sucked. I don't know anything about that, but it's something that I might revisit in the future. I'm just not planning on it right now. So thanks for asking, Patrick. I hope that answers your question. I hope it gives you at least a little bit of optimism, because you never know. It might be something that I return to one day, and it might be something that I play for this site, and maybe just for you, my friend. Our next question comes from Aspiri. And Aspiri asks, Q&A Tyrant, with Sean Cooper from Halo Custom Edition being part of the Master Chief Collection update team, what are you hoping to see done with Halo Anniversary? Excellent question. So honestly, until you brought that up, I had no idea. What I would love to see, first of all, if you don't know what Halo Custom Edition is, it was what was primarily used in making Halo SPV 3, an excellent mod for Halo PC, or more specifically, Halo PC Custom Edition. And I still remember back from the days where Custom Edition, was first released and people were experimenting with it. They were creating all these awesome multiplayer maps, some with AI, some with just completely different layouts. Think of it like old school Forge. It was amazing, and I'd love to see something like that brought to Master Chief Collection. Imagine being able to do what to Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST and Halo 4, maybe even Halo Reach at some point down the road. The same thing that the genius team behind SPV 3 did to Combat Evolved. Wouldn't that be awesome if you could revamp Halo 2 and Halo 3 and Halo 4 and ODST to just be a game that still has its core, the core mechanics of the original, but expands on it. Imagine if you could actually reconstruct the trailer, the Halo 2 E3 2003 trailer in Halo 2, and basically take the mission Metropolis and combine it with Outskirts, and then just have this like big super mission where you have more places to go and more things to do. I think that would be amazing. I don't expect that to happen, but at the very least, I will say this. I would really like to see the Master Chief Collection brought to the PC, or at the very least Windows 10. I think a lot of people would really appreciate that. People have been begging for Halo 3 PC for a decade now, and I think that would really bring a lot of attention back to the Halo community, especially for folks who may not have invested in an Xbox One, but did decide to upgrade their PC. So I think that would be an excellent idea. It's something that I hope they would consider in the future, and that's an excellent question, my friend. Our next question comes from CFunk99. I think CFunk99 is my potables of the Q&As, because I always pick him, and I do that because he always has such excellent questions. It's always good to have you here, CFunk. Yes, that was a compliment. And his question is, Q&A, what if Xbox One fails and Microsoft decides to abandon the console market? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I will say that that would be a terrible thing for a couple of reasons. First of all, aside from PC, there are 3 major consoles out there. PC isn't really a console, but it's a platform. And there are 3 major consoles out there, or console titans, you would say. And that would be Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. All 3 console companies are fantastic. They have great fan bases, and they have great content. They basically each specialize in different things. Microsoft, I feel like technology is their main thing. It's not just about games, it's about expanding beyond that. With PlayStation, it's hardcore games, and with Nintendo, it's tailored more for younger audiences and family-type games. So they all have their niche, if you will. But Microsoft and PlayStation are the 2 big direct competitors. Like, Nintendo's its own thing. Xbox and PlayStation are two huge competitors, and I will tell you that having competition is excellent for the consumer. That's capitalism 101 right there. To quote Ron Swanson, capitalism is God's way of determining who is smart and who is poor. But to go back to it, yes, capitalism, or at least competition, I should say, competition in general, is a way for them to want to improve the experiences for you, the consumer. Look at it like this. Think of cable companies, okay? The vast majority of cable companies here in the U.S., or I should say, the vast majority of consumers here in the U.S. have access to one, maybe two ISPs. They don't have a lot of choices. Because of that, you typically, not always, but typically get really crappy service from those ISPs. You know, when they say they're going to be at your house between 10 a.m. tomorrow and 5 p.m. next year. They don't care because they know that your only other option is to not have any internet. So they can do what they want. Now, think of the console wars in that respect. If PlayStation pulls out of the game, for example, then Xbox has the market. They can charge, you know, thousands of dollars for their consoles. They can not worry about making positive changes for their community, for their consumers, because why should they? If you don't like their product, then guess what? You don't have to game. And of course you say, well, the PC, the thing of it is, and I've had this conversation with people before, and this is the other end of it, and I'll get to it in a minute. You have to understand that more people own PCs than consoles. Now, saying that, most people who own PCs do not own gaming PCs, but they do own more PCs than consoles because PCs have more utility behind them. More people can use them for different things. Gaming might be important to some people, but for others it's email, it's word processing, it's surfing the internet. My grandmother is approaching 90, and even she has a computer. Someone had told me a while back that they thought that there were more consoles out there than computers, which is complete BS. That is not true at all. But having said that, Microsoft controls that market as well. Keep in mind that Microsoft owns Windows, and the vast majority of PCs out there are Windows-powered PCs. They're not Linux, they're not Macintosh, they're PC. And so one of the bright sides to that, though, is that Microsoft, again, they all do special things. And when I focus on Microsoft in particular, one of the things that they're working on expanding is cross-platform play between Xboxes and PCs. So you don't necessarily have to get an Xbox to play your favorite game. And we see that they're exploring that more and more in the future. We already saw that with Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2. And hopefully we might see with the Master Chief Collection, but I would really hope that Microsoft would continue to stick with it. I don't see them dropping out anytime soon, nor would I want them to. Again, all three console platforms are doing fantastically, have great fan bases. They both specialize in different things. And because they have that competition, they're always striving to make our experiences as the consumer even better. So I hope that answers your question, CFunk99. Always a great one from you. And our final question of the week, our star question, comes from Phoenix Tracer. Damn, that name is badass. And Phoenix Tracer asks, Q&A, how would you feel about an anthology-style Reach prequel? Everyone complains Noble Team are a good baseline of characters with a poor level of development, so why not give them more time, give us more time with them? I could not agree with you more. You know, it's interesting that you say that, because leading up to the release of Halo Reach, we got to see some backstory from Noble Team. It wasn't a lot, but it was a little bit. Basically how there's a position open for Noble 6, you get to see how Kat lost her arm, and why not turn that into a game? There is a solid backstory there with those characters, especially George. You know, he's the only Spartan 2 in that group. And so seeing his backstory and how he went from being a Spartan 2 to teaming up with Spartan 3s, maybe he did it as a mentor, I'm not exactly sure. It didn't mention it in the game as far as I know. But it would be really cool to see his story. It'd be really cool to see the perspective of the original Noble 6. I think it was Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure someone will let me know in the comments below. But it'd be really cool to see, you know, all the heroics that he performed while he was on Noble Team. It'd be really interesting to see the Covenant encounters that they had to go through prior to Reach, because you know they went through a lot, especially Kat. I mean, she lost her freaking arm. And so it would be really cool to see that perspective. They have a story to tell. And I agree with you that I don't think their characters were explored as well in Reach as we, the Halo fans, really would have liked. That said, I still think their characterization in Reach was far better, and I mean far better than anything that we saw in Halo 5 when it came to Fireteam Osiris or even Blue Team. There's no real characterization there. I can sit there and pinpoint the characteristics and importance of each member of Noble Team easily, and their strengths and weaknesses. Can't do that with Osiris. And it would be really cool to have something to sort of to put that to, some sort of backstory. Imagine having a solid backstory on each character and then going back and replaying Halo Reach. How awesome would that be? You'd have a whole new appreciation, an entirely new appreciation for those characters. I would love to have a bit more of their history. I'm sure it's very fascinating, and I'm sure it would make for great gameplay. If you look at some of the trailers that led up to the release of Halo Reach and you see some of the battles they're in, you know they've been in very intense situations before. Now, I don't know how long Noble Team has been together as a whole. I don't know if it was recent, like just prior to the events of Reach, or if they'd been together for years instead of months. But either way, I'm sure they've got a story to tell, and it's one that I think that would go in-game very, very well. Now, one of the reasons I want to emphasize this is because one of the things that I've repeatedly stated is that after the Reclaimer saga is over, I don't want them going further into the future. I don't want them, you know, throwing in too much space magic. I'd love to see some games that took place prior to the Combat Evolved trilogy. There's 20 some odd years of history there with the Covenant. I think it's what, 22, 25 years, 25 I think, with the Covenant, and there's so much that could be done with that. And I think exploring those characters would be a great start. People have said that they wanted a Halo Reach 2, which can't really happen since Reach was glassed and completely destroyed. And the Covenant, at this point in time at least, is disbanded for the most part, if you saw the ending to Halo 5. So going back and instead of doing a Reach 2, but rather actually exploring the characters that were in Reach, I think would be an excellent thing to do. I think there are a lot of people out there who love Halo Reach. You know, I thought it was a great game. I think that there are a lot of people out there who would love to have more backstory to it and have more meaning brought into those characters. So that brings a close to this week's Q&A. I want you guys to let me know in the comments below what you would like to see with those characters. Would you like to see different games done? Would you like to see a game done with all of them together? Would you like to see them each have their own separate games, sort of like a Marvel style thing where each character gets their own, you know, stars in their own role and then they all come together later? Whatever your thoughts are, I'm eager to hear them. I hope you'll share them with me in the comment section below, or feel free to hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for taking valuable time out of your day to be here and listen and participate in this Q&A. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you like this video. And if you do, I hope you'll consider subscribing for more great content right here on MythicTyrant.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys and gals. I hope everyone here has a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you all right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.